Okay, we are live here. Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Resume. Let me start off by saying right away, I never thought I'd have Ozzy Osborn on with me. We're not going to eat any bat heads. We're going to take it easy. But Ozzy, brother, great to have you, my friend.
I'm excited to be here, Scott.
Thank you. And hey, if I look a little disheveled right now, I literally 5 minutes ago just got back from Orlando, Florida. Got in the house, was dealing with some flight issues, but I was going to take this from the car if I had to, like whatever it takes. I wanted to have this episode. That's the mindset, because I think this is an important topic, and you and I have a great story of maybe some turbulence in the relationship too. I'll use the word turbulence. I don't think it was much more than that. I actually label it as a misunderstanding. We'll get into all of that. We'll get into all of that. But Ozzy, thank you again. For the audience here who may not know you very well, tell us a little bit about Ozzy Osborn.
Retired sergeant major from the Army, and my wife informed me the other day it's been over 16 years. I can't believe it. It has gone just like that. But
wow,
the ability to stay connected to my brothers and sisters in arms, not only the Army, but all the other services, has really kept my life full. I found purpose in helping others, and it's made the time go fast. When you love doing what when you have a purpose and you love that purpose, helping others is mine, then life is good and life goes fast.
Yeah, and you're legit on that purpose. You're very legit on this because there's a few people I'm afraid of. Between you and CZ, getting a hug is like a brutal event. You're going to get your back slapped like a Ric Flair chop, and it's it's a good pain, right? It's a reminder we haven't seen each other in some time. So you've been retired now 16 years.
16 years. Yeah.
Wow. So tell us about that when you hey, and for all you out there, thanks for the comments. Go ahead and tell us where you're listening in from, where you're coming from, and then if you have any questions for Oz, because we're gonna dive deep into the networks. And I put a provocative post out there this morning on purpose. Not that this is all about making money, but it certainly doesn't hurt, and a strong network helps. So, tell us to like your transition story when you got the phone call or whatever it was to retire from the Army. How did that go for you?
I tell everybody, I was just talking to somebody this afternoon at AUSA here in Huntsville, Sergeant Major Everett, who is now the commandant at the Sergeant Major Academy. And, she's toying with that next decision point. And I said, you'll know. You will. One day, something will happen, or you will just know, yep, it's time to move on to another chapter. Mine, I'd gotten blown up in Iraq, and we came back, went to the academy, be an instructor, and I was going to come down on orders to redeploy. We had just had Jennifer, my daughter, and we knew that wasn't in the cards, and it was without hesitation. It was like, okay, we're retiring. It was that moment in time where it's like, nope, my time in the Army is done, no regrets. And we decided to retire. So then the questions come, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go?
Yeah.
What's that next step? I don't know. Our first decision was we're going to retire.
Yeah.
So then it was, everybody says you got to pick a location. Well, we really didn't know. So we're like, well, I guess we're going to go back where family's at. So we picked Kentucky. And at the time, one of my former soldiers, an E7 in my unit, had already gotten out and was with this company. He goes, hey, Oz, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know. I guess we're going to go to Kentucky. That's where family's at. He goes, you know what? I can hook you up. Really? And he did. He got me a job. So a former E7 that, and I try to do right by everybody. Dignity and respect. You treat everybody, the same, because you never know who's going to be able to help you later. And if you act all-star major to everybody, you may burn bridges that you're going to need later.
Yeah.
But he hooked me up. He got me a decent job with a small company. But Bobby wanted to go to Europe. So to do that, we took on a GS role.
Okay.
So I took on a government, a government employee role. We went to Europe for a few years, taught battle command systems, which I was the chief of battle staff when I retired. So that kind of dovetailed into what I was going to do. We were there a few years. My dad passed away, so we decided, well, we need to go home, go back to family. So we came back. Had no clue what we were going to do then. It had been a good ride at that point. And probably the best thing I did was I finished my master's degree. You know, everybody's like, you need education. Why you don't have to duty? You need education. You need education. And I was the one too busy. But once I was retired, we were in Germany as a GS employee. I had some time. So I finished my master's. We came back and, a company found me on LinkedIn, of all places, on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Now, this is 10 years ago. So LinkedIn was just starting to take off.
Yeah.
10 years ago. But yeah, the company hired a recruiter. They found me on LinkedIn and offered me a job, and we took it. And it's been a good ride. It's been a really good ride.
I remember LinkedIn about 10 years ago and being specifically told not to be on there, given some of the work that I was doing.
That's right. Right.
So there was there was kind of this mindset of stay away from it. The non-cleared or the strange individuals are on there, which is not true, of course. Are there nefarious actors? They're everywhere. But and it's evolved since then. Now you've got very senior folks on there.
The paradigm shift for sure.
Yeah.
You almost have. So, my daughter got accepted to Purdue this fall in business.
Congrats.
And we went up to Purdue a couple of weeks ago. And a freshman who's only been at Purdue for a semester and 2 sophomores. So these 3 females were having lunch with us. And there's 2 things I gave my daughter. Their business card right off the bat. We sat down and they said, hey, here's our business card.
Wow.
And we need to connect on LinkedIn. That was their mantra to my daughter was, here's my business card. And we need to hook up on LinkedIn.
Business minded at a young age. Yeah. I know some folks don't believe in the business card and they're not maybe what they once were, but every tool, there's a time and a place. And there's occasions where the business card, especially in some environments where you may not be able to have your phone, are helpful. So, you look back at that 16 years ago, wild and crazy Oz. I'm sure you had long hair. You were a hippie. Of course. Knowing what you know now, what would you go back and tell that individual in terms of their transition, and when would they start? When would you start, if you will?
Because we decided when to retire, we had a year, right?
Okay.
We had a full year from when we said, hey, we're going to get out to prepare. What I watched some of our brothers and sisters that are at a senior level, they only may get 90 to 120 days. And they wait until that 90 or 120 days to prepare, and it's not enough time.
Yeah.
So I used to say a year, then it was, no, you need 2 years. But recently I've been like, no, 3 years out. You need to kind of get in your mind 3 years out. This could be my last assignment. And we need to start looking at where we're going, what we're doing, things of that nature.
So mindset is at the 3-year mark. You're certainly not putting out job requests at that time.
No.
We'll take this on the timeline. You're saying 3 years out, that's where young Ozzy's going to start. Okay.
Yeah, I would say 3 years out, you've come to the realization that, you know what, I've had a good ride in whatever military service that is, Marines, Army, Navy.
Right.
And this is going to be my last gig. But, I hear, I don't know what's next. I hear, at least in the Army, that everybody, I don't know what's next. I don't know what's available. I don't know. But I think you personally, 3 years out as a family, need to decide, you know what? Okay, we're at the end of our road.
Yeah.
And we need to start doing things. 2 years out, now you're like, all right, what do I might want to do? And what do I need to do to get ready for whatever I want to do? A year out is when you start doing medical and, doing all that last minute preparatory stuff before you punch. So 3, 2, 1. That if I had to go back, that's what I would give myself. But I gave myself a year.
And I think, it's different for everyone when it comes to the conversation of networking. But you have a really lovable personality, and I'm not saying that to put you on pat you on the back there. I mean, you genuinely have a caring, lovable personality. I've noticed your body language when you meet somebody. You're going to have squared shoulders, and you look them in the eye. That's who you are, with a bright smile. And so you've always had that. However, with that being said, if you were to rewind in that 3, 2, 1 scenario you just laid out, when are you telling that young man to start networking, and what does that look like?
I told the senior guys last week, I was in a senior transition course with folks at Fort Leavenworth last week.
Right.
And I said, as we come up, and even in the Sergeant Major Academy, they're like, hey, look left, look right. That's who you need to network with, because that's who's going to help you in your job. And they're right. Active duty, you got a core group of friends that you can pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I need something. But we need to then get to the, hey, what's our network outside of the military? Because that's who's going to help you take care of yourself once you leave the service.
Yeah.
So you got to have, you got your network now, which is active duty, but you have to start building your network of friends outside the military, probably about 2 years out. You need to start, branching out, talking to people. I think LinkedIn is a good platform to do that. And you said, more senior leaders now, that's almost a given that you have to be on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I would say, and you did this very well. I've told you this before. You got to build your brand.
Yeah.
You got to build your brand of who you are. Let people know who Dave Osborn is, Scott Stalker is, and what you're doing now that can relate to what you're going to want to do when you get out, and build that brand. People got to know you.
Yeah.
You can't wait until you're out to say, hey, I'm Scott Stalker.
Yeah.
It's too late.
It's way too late. Yeah. I'm a work in progress.
I told you before, you did it right.
No, I appreciate it. I'm a work in progress. And what I would add to that piece there is absolutely 100% agree. The other variable, at some point, you got to come up with either what you want to do or know at least what you don't want to do. And mine was more what I didn't want to do. For me, I did not want to go the government contractor route, and or the government civilian route, if you will. And so to each their own, right? You did for a little bit, and then you're on the other side. It's all good. Because then you want to reach out to veterans who are doing the things that you enjoy. And that's what I did, is I reached out to veterans who made the transition successfully and are doing things that I might be interested in, right? And we all know the Mike Quinns and the folks that are out there. And they gave me great advice. One of the greatest programs out there for me was also American Corporate Partners. And that's a good program. Emphasize that one enough. The Honor Foundation was excellent too. But what I was set up with for 1 full year was a service disabled veteran-owned small business CEO. And once a month, we would sit down and talk. And I was learning things I didn't even know existed. I was learning acronyms and all these conversations. And about a year later, I'm literally doing those things. I'm working for those contracts. I'm building my company. I'm building, per your point there, my brand, so that I can start hiring veterans and really make my own empire. Ultimately, hopefully taking care of my family, and building that generational wealth. But all of it comes from networking. And I wanted to share this with you. I was literally a few hours ago, I woke up this morning in Orlando, Florida. I had a delay in Atlanta, no big deal, big airport, a lot to do there. And within the 2 hours I had my layover in Atlanta, I had 3 phone calls. One with an individual, I won't give their name, but you and I both know them, a very, 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 very senior E9, who I connected, who's now retired, I connected with and likely found an opportunity for that individual based on some specifics of what they were looking for. I took a call from an organization that was looking for a cyber consultant. They asked if I was interested. And because of my network and who I had built, someone had recommended me to them. And so I did that. And then literally an old colonel I knew was looking for some assistance at the Pentagon. He said, Scott, can you help us out with this, depending on how much time you have available? And so I literally had given a potential job opportunity, and I found 2 things for me that came my way just from a network alone. No one asked for a resume. No one asked for a bio. It was all through a professional reputation that takes time to cultivate. And I wish people would listen and hear that point more. It's just a consistent over time. I started 2 years out. You're recommending 3, hell, 10 years out, whenever you want. But building that brand and that professional reputation is so critical. And you nailed it, Ozzy.
Well, I tell you, when I got let go last year after 9 years with that company,
We're going to dive into that in a minute.
It was a kick in the nuts. But my network, I mean, I had SMA Tilley, retired Sergeant Major of the Army Tilley. He was the first phone call I got. Hey, Oz, how you doing? What can I do to help?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't have anything right now because he owns his own company. Mm-hmm. But he goes, look, if I can find something, I will. I'm here to help you. And that I'll never forget that phone call. That really touched me. But, and then that I got another job offer from a friend in the network, gave me a job. And then it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do, but it got me out of the house because the walls were coming in on me.
Yeah.
And in short order, I got another phone call from another network friend. And so now I'm working with a company called Skydyne but I got that through a friend.
Let me rewind on some of this here. And I love the genuine emotion, Ozzy, and this is really who you are. That's why I said, when you give that hug out, be careful. You're going to crack a rib because Ozzy's coming in. So pardon me, my back's killing me right now, so I'm moving around. But the way you handled your being released is really not just a class act. It is the model, because, and we're not going to disparage that organization at all, ever. They made a decision, so be it. We move on. But I will tell everyone, I didn't know all the details. I saw some things, and then we had a chat about some things later. But the way you handled it, I thought that's the way to do it. Because getting on there and saying Company X is a bunch of jerks and this and that, the only thing that guarantees is you now look bad. And the future employers out there might say, wow, is this guy balanced? Is he level-headed? So can you walk us through, because, I'd asked you prior, hey, is anything off limits? And so no, nothing's off limits. And again, anyone in the audience that has questions, please share them here. Walk us through. One day you've got a job. And then how did you find out that you were let go within reason of you telling us? And how was that? Tell us that story.
So, we came back from Germany, and like I said, the company found me through LinkedIn. They needed somebody to engage the services on what they were offering. It was something new, almost like this company I work for now. It was something new that the DoD potentially needed, but they needed somebody that knows the inner workings of DoD, has the connections, has the network, and can go out and pitch that product. So when I saw what they had, I'm like, you know what? I'm all in. That's a good product. It's something that will help the field.
Yeah,
I'm all in. So it felt like family. They were a small 65-person company. We grew to be like family to them. Uh, but you know what I've come to find out, Scott, and Bobby tells my wife Bobby tells me all the time that the Lord has a plan.
Yeah.
We're not always privy to that plan. So just know that we're in good hands and things happen for a reason. So we had we had some emotional losses in our family a year ago, and it kicked off my PTSD.
Yeah.
Something I had never really thought about, had gone and sought help for ever, but in a course of a week, it set it off, and I went to the VA. I sought some help, and the company just felt, it's probably time to part ways.
Yeah.
And they called, and this is how much family we are. They called my wife and they said, "Hey, we're gonna let David go."
Yeah.
They called my wife,
Yeah.
and she's like, "Look, he's driving. Just wait until we're together. We're gonna be at lunch together, and call when we're together." So they did,
Yeah.
and they explained everything, and my wife's like, "You don't have anything to say?" And I'm like, "No, I really don't. I mean, it's their, like you said, it's their decision. There's nothing I can do or say that's going to change that. So, okay." And that's one thing I think we have to learn in the business world too.
Yeah.
Business is business, and
Yeah.
at the end of the day, they have the right of refusal, right? They can let you go.
Yeah.
We can take some of the GS employees now that are being let go, and
Yep.
that's just how it is. If we haven't learned something in the military, though, it's how to be adaptive, resilient.
Huge. Huge.
And
I
that
go ahead.
my family got me through it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was I just, again, it was a master class in how to handle it. And I'm sure there were some things behind the scenes. Maybe you had to hit the heavy bag or whatnot. And you know what? That's the way you do it. You go down to the gym and you jack some steel, you hit the heavy bag, you go for a run, maybe a cocktail, with a friend and blow off steam. Hopefully you do it intelligently, but getting on social media and badmouth, and I see it far too often. I just view someone that's unbalanced and probably not, probably needs to see someone professionally for help. So,
to that end, though, and you've heard me talk about it in our network the past few months. When I got out, I didn't take my medical serious.
yeah.
So when I retired 16 years ago, I got 20%.
Yep.
And it's like, hey, that's what they feel I owe, I'm deserved. So I went 16 years with 20%.
Yeah.
But that whole episode last year caused me to then go back to the VA, one, seeking help for my PTSD, but two, seeking a reevaluation of all my ailments. And so I got 100% in December. So we've gone from 20% to 100% in short order. And it's a game changer. It truly is a game changer for those that are going to retire. They need to take it serious. And they need to take care of themselves, and let the VA tell you that you're not deserving.
Yeah. And I always scratch that word because I think you earned it. No one deserves anything, but the decades of service, you earned it. It's an earned benefit. There's a program there. American voters have decided we need a Department of Veterans Affairs, and there's, taxes go to fund a lot of this. And that's the system we have. And it's not taking advantage of anything, ethically, we go in there, I've got a pretty serious issue with my shoulder lately. On Monday, I'm going to have a visit with my PCM from the Veterans Affairs, and we'll go through that process. And so we'll see what's going on there. But I really wish people would listen in to what you're saying there. Start early with the VA, even if it's 0%. Maybe you did 4 years and you have nothing. That's fine. But get it documented and listed, because you're not always going to be 25. Someday you're going to be 85, right? And these things do not get better with time. It is not fine wine.
But let's go back to the network piece.
Yeah.
It was people in the network that, one, pushed me to go back, and two, then helped me navigate the system to get where I'm at. Because we don't know. I mean, unless you work in that lane, you don't understand the terminology or how things are, you know, how everything gets fleshed out.
Yeah.
But people in the network called and said, "Hey, how can I help you? I do this on the side, you know, let me walk you through the steps." And it worked. I mean, but
That's
again,
good to
it's
hear.
network.
It is.
I just said that. So something came up about chapter 35 and additional benefits for high school and your kids. Too many of our friends retire, in my opinion, retire and they totally disconnect from the service. The problem is things change. The Rudisill bill for post 9/11 Montgomery GI Bill benefits.
You're right.
You know, chapter 35 and this little thing I found last week that somebody shared it. My point is, if you retire and you completely disconnect as a veteran, you're going to miss something. You're going to miss the changes that happen every year.
Yeah.
Being part of a network of veterans, you're able to share information and talk, and you stay current on the changes. You know, it's not all of a sudden you don't get a check. You're like, what happened? At least you know what's coming. So I say that to veterans. You still need to stay connected when you retire, just as much as you do on active duty, so that you stay abreast of what the changes are. That's
100%. I mean, and even this idea that you're 100% P&T or whatever, administrations can pass new laws and change things, and we're seeing some things now. Nothing is forever, and so I urge people to use their earned benefits and allow the doctors in the VA to decide if you're 0 or 100 or wherever you're at in between. Because if we do not use it, it'll definitely go away, right? So,
you know, so network, you mentioned Keystone earlier. I don't know if we were live yet, but that has got to be one of the best programs that I've ever seen or heard of, where senior non-commissioned officers can go and learn about other COCOMs, but more importantly, it allows you to meet other service members. That's pretty much how I met you.
Yeah.
You know, and I met Jim Honier, the McPon, just through Pat McCulley, through Keystone, became that bridge point. So when I started in the network almost 10 years ago now, it was 5 people. It was 5 Army guys. And Pat McCulley went to Keystone. He goes, Oz. And he's a homeboy. He's from Louisville, Kentucky. He's like, I met these great Marines and Navy guys at Keystone. He goes, I need to introduce you. And we went from 5 people to now 2,000 because of Keystone, truly. That was the bridging gap, or the bridge between all the services, getting not only Army, but Navy, Air Force, Marines, and even puddle pirates, the Coast Guard, into our network.
I didn't say that. Hey, oddly, so you bring up Pat McCulley. I went to Keystone with him, and so I know specifically the great Marines he was talking about was, you know, James Porterfield and those guys.
Yep, Seamus, great people.
Yeah, they brought me along as a mascot, but we had Pat McCulley in there, and that was an incredible course, and I'm honored to now to be a senior fellow teaching that course once a year. It gets
Pat brought you up as the Marine he met. That was a great person.
Yeah. Well, I remind Pat McCulley that he's a Marine because his first 2 years he was in the Corps. So he is, and I give him a happy birthday every 10th of November. Hey, so you mentioned this. I hear from you at least 10 times a day, every single day. Okay. Now, people hearing this saying, wow, is Ozzy actually the stalker here? Is he the crazy one? No. But you have a network where you keep all of us abreast via email. Can you tell us about that? Because I wasn't in when you had the early 5, but I've been in for a little bit now. And I remember we had some challenges with email groups and whatnot. Tell us about that. And Oz, is that open for others?
So we started as a E9 network, a sergeant major network, and whatever that means in your service, you know, Master Chief, sergeant major,
E9,
command chief, E9 network. I let a colonel in one day. So Colonel Littlebridge, RJ Littlebridge, he retired. He goes, hey, at my recent retirement ceremony at the Pentagon, Oz, I'm good. And a few months later, I met him for lunch, and he looked disheveled. I'm like, RJ, what's going on? He goes, hey, that job I thought I had, they rescinded the offer letter.
Mm.
Really? And he was a West Point grad. I said, what about your West Point group? Yeah, no help. What about your Colonel network? Because we all know they got them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no good. I said, well, RJ, I got this group.
Yeah.
I said, I got this group of sergeant majors I've kind of put under my wing. I said, if you want to be a part of it, by all means, I'll put you in. And yeah, once you let one in, they're like little cockroaches. But that's okay. I've learned
I love it.
Everybody needs help.
Yeah.
Everybody needs help. And officers have something to bring. Colonels have something to bring to the fight as well. But it was truly started as an E9 network.
Yeah.
Because I felt, so did the other 5, that the sergeant majors, the E9s, did not have a network to lean on like the officers have.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, why don't we put something together and we can do this? So it started with 5 people and it just started growing. We limited it to, and we still do today. So it's not completely open to everybody.
Yeah.
But I say this, I've never turned anybody down that's in. So there's only 2 ways to get in our network. And this is one, I either have to meet you in person, or 2, somebody in the network invites you in. Hence, they send me an email and they're like, hey, Scott Stalker, great American. Because Pat McCauley's like, hey, you need to meet Scott. I'm telling you that you need to meet Scott. And so you get invited in. So it becomes a trust circle.
Yeah. So
the ones of us that are in there, somewhere along the line, like 6 degrees of separation, 2,000, we're now 2,000 strong.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that 2,000, you have a touch point of like 10 to 15 people.
Yeah.
More importantly, it becomes a trust. So if you're in the network and somebody said, I might not know Scott, but if you say, hey, I'm in the network, well, guess what? I'm vouching for you. I'm going to bat for you.
Yeah.
So we try not to let everybody in. It's designed to be a senior NCO network, but I've never turned anybody down. If somebody invites them into the network, I wholeheartedly sign them up. I've only ever dropped 2 people out for whatever reason, and that's okay. We've been doing it 10 years, and we've only let 2 people go, and we keep growing. So
that's not bad. Yeah.
No, it's not bad.
What I love about it too is, sometimes you get in these groups and they could, whether you're in I'm not bringing this up because of recent events, but like a signal chat group or a text group, and sometimes it can go nuts, right? It can go sideways. And I've been in a few and I had to self-select and say, I got to tap out. It's just too much. The phone won't stop buzzing and beeping. And that's,
to your earlier point, you said, well, how did it grow? We were doing emails. So early on, we were doing email only.
Yeah.
But the group, so Outlook, Google, all of them have parameters, and we outgrew the parameters.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So so I was managing 9 different emails to cover 2,000 people. And so we had to find another way to do it.
Yeah.
So we found the app, right? We found an app.
Yep.
Not Signal. We found an app.
We'll leave that one alone.
And some people, 90% of the people are good with the app. They're like, oh, this is great.
Yeah. What
the app allowed 2 things. One was me to just push information anytime I wanted. Like when I got information, I pushed it. Yeah. Where with emails, it was once a day. Yeah. In the morning, I'd wake up and I'd send out the emails. The app allows me to push anytime I want to. And it also gives me the ability, or everybody, the ability to have a chat room. So either a group or a private chat. Yeah. Where with emails, early on, we're like, there's no reply alls. Like you're going to get information, but there's no reply alls. If you have anything to say or a question, it comes to me. Right. And then I'm the one that vets it and pushes it out.
Yeah.
But so we got about 10%. We won't mention any names, Scott. that like email.
Yeah,
So
I
so a
do.
couple of months ago, I'm like, you know what? I hate that you dropped out of the group because of the app. So I started the emails again for people that wanted
Yeah.
emails. So now I manage one email and the app, uh, 2,000 people. And I just want to make sure everybody's taken care of. And
I
whatever
love it.
medium that is,
Yeah. I love it. I think we're certainly well past the era where there's too much information in this world, right? You can be on X and Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, and I have at least 6 different email groups for different things that I do now, and apps and whatnot. So it can get challenging. Um, but no matter what, when I get emails from you, and I actually, I'll occasionally write you back, hey, disagree with this one, or that one's good, or
sure
I'll give
do.
you, but they're never violent disagreements, or there's usually a different perspective on something. I really appreciate them. But more importantly, usually 2 or 3 a week, I'll see and I'll forward out to somebody, hey, this might be for you.
That's right.
Take a peek at this. And so it's not really a network just about, hey, what's in it for me? It's how can I
That's right.
2x your 2000 and get it out to even more
And I've said that to you and everybody in the network. We're only 2,000 out of a big DoD bubble.
right,
So if I give Scott the information and Scott pushes it to the 10 people he knows, well, we just increased our footprint by that many, right?
right,
Or you see a job, you don't need a job, but you see a job somewhere and you know somebody, then you push
yeah,
it. So as senior leaders, we should do that, I feel.
yeah,
I get information and I'm going to push it down. We'll push it
yeah,
out. And that's how we help one another.
yeah. I think you can say you care about others, or you can actually show it. And I think that's what I love about our network is, neither you or I are getting a penny off of an email forwarded to a friend or a
Right.
recommendation for a brother or a sister. This is born out of love and genuinely caring for service members. And now that I've been in this for a little longer, I see certain things and opportunities. And you know, really quick story is when I was getting ready to retire, I had a very large Fortune 500 company, probably a Fortune 50 company, if you will, if not even bigger, reached out to me and they offered me something very, very remarkable. Had more zeros on it than I had seen
Yeah.
before, right? And so I was told, hey, this job was created for you. I talked to my wife. We were in. We said, hey, this is going to be awesome. And then they told me, here's the link. Just send in your resume and apply here. And it's not for anyone else. It's just for you. And I never heard back from them again. And listen, that's a great lesson learned. I'm really happy that happened because I hear far too many people say, hey, I got this thing, and I can end it. And you don't have an offer until you have an offer, like until it's in blood ink, and paychecks are coming in. I think even then you always want to be networking, ABN, right? Always be
Right.
networking.
That's right.
It's huge. And
And
that's why,
certain people turn it off too. They'll get a good job and they're like, okay,
yeah,
I'm good.
yeah,
And then you see them drop off
yeah.
until they need your help again. And then they come back on and you're like, oh, where have you been? And so
Well,
there's that.
yeah, there's a lot of soft truths to life. I always talk about how you can't search trust either. And God forbid something happens to your job tomorrow or some things I'm doing. You have a cachet of time built and invested in a professional reputation where instantly you're going to be able to dive into new opportunities. Whereas if you were getting a cold start, it makes it harder. It's not impossible, but it makes it harder. And so that's what I love about it. And that's why your story of, unfortunately, how you were let go and how you handled it led to great success. So let me pivot if I will. What are you doing now?
So
And
I work,
you
so
briefly
that,
touched on it real quick.
yeah.
You briefly touched on it. How did that opportunity come about? Like walk us through that.
So let me start by saying you talk about a lucrative offer. I
Yeah,
think as you prepare to retire, I tell everybody this: you got your second thing, location, and then
yeah,
how much do I need to make? And what that means to me is what do I need to maintain my standard of living? Like how do I want to live? And the company I work for now, trust me, based on the industry standard, I am very underpaid. But guess what? I'm happy.
Yeah.
And I'm happy with the company. I'm happy with what I do. And money's not everything. And when you hear people talk about very lucrative contracts, guess what? Somebody's going to want something for that. The more you make, the more they expect. So not to diminish, hey, I don't make a lot, so the expectations aren't there. But
yeah,
if they were paying me a lot more, there would be a lot more heat, than, hey, what are you doing for me? So the company's called Skydyne.
Yeah.
And it came to me through a network friend, a true friend that I'd worked with before. And he knew the plight I was going through. And he goes, hey, I got this opportunity for you if you're interested. So Bobby and I went to Detroit and we talked to him, and we're like, yeah, we're all in. It's doing exactly what I was doing for the last company, business development in a DoD space. And they've got something I feel is relevant to the field. Things are being more mobile, more expeditionary. And I went to First Army East for a few months last year because I wanted to get out of the house.
Yeah.
And I go in and I go, okay, hey, Sergeant Major. I hate that, but hey, Sergeant Major, how many monitors do you want? I'm like, what? And yeah, how many monitors do you want? I'm like, I just need a laptop. No, you need monitors. So I could either get an 18-inch monitor or I can get 2 monitors. I've never dealt with that. I'm like, well, give me 2 monitors. Well, I learned that's the standard these days.
Yeah.
The standard in these units is 2 monitors or 1 big one. Well, you're not going to deploy very fast with a big one. So right. I had 2 monitors. So this company designed a field desk where it's dual monitors that folds up into almost a suitcase style apparatus. Very, very fast, very deployable. And, as an ops sergeant major, I'm like, that's got some promise. I like that. That can help the field.
Yeah.
So I signed on to this company, 1, because I believe in what they have. And 2, it's what I like doing. I like getting out, networking, talking to people, and sharing what I'm doing, sharing what they're doing. And at the same time, there's a trade-off that I get to help people.
Yeah. I think if anyone is listening, and I mean this with all sincerity, you are the model employee, brother. What you do, I'm serious. I mean this sincerely. I mean, you engage socially, you ride for the brand, you're positive, uplifting, you're genuine about it, you help others. They got you for a coupon, man. They got you in for a good deal, and God bless them, and you as well, because you obviously agreed to it.
Well, like I said, my family and I are happy,
yep.
And that's all that matters to me.
Yeah.
And if I can help them make a little money, then we're all happy. But
yeah,
bottom line, it's all about family. When you retire, it's all about family.
Yeah.
And you've lived that mantra since you've retired too. It's all about family.
Well, I do my best. I'm on the road probably more than I should.
You do a pretty good job, Scott.
I try. Yeah. I appreciate it. Speaking of great teammates, man, one of the wisest leaders I've ever been around and served with, Paul Kraft. Good to see you on there, sir. He's kicking ass, and he triggered a thought actually because I got to know him in the world of cyber. So another thing I love about Ozzy is Ozzy's going to tell you to your face when there's an issue. And so we were in college recently, and you told me a story that I didn't remember or even actually know about. And let's tell everyone how I stabbed you in the back and how I screwed you over, brother.
Well, there's only ever been 2 people that have done that, and you're one of them.
Yep. Let's hear the story.
The other one's Chris Gunn, infantry sergeant major out of Fort Benning.
Okay.
Almost the same situation. So for everybody, I was told about Scott Stalker. And they said, hey, he'd be a good person to get in the network. I said, okay. So I wrote you an email, and I courtesy copied a bunch of folks that that are in our network.
Yeah.
And I do that to kind of add validity to who I am because we've never
Right.
met before.
Yeah.
You
Makes
know, and
sense.
it's, you know, I've kind of learned that too. Cold call emails is not a good thing. You taught me that.
Yeah.
So I sent you an email and I offered, you know, to come into the network, and you wrote everybody I CC'd beyond me and said, hey, I don't know this guy. I really don't have any time for him. You know,
Yeah.
I'm out. And I wrote you back and I said, hey, Scott, you know, I appreciate your time. I know you're busy and, you know, have a good life.
Yep.
But later on, I doubled back on you and you said, oh, yeah, that sounds good. I'm going to be part of that.
Yeah.
And that's when I told you, well, Scott, I tried once before.
Yeah. And, you know,
like, no, I didn't.
So at the time, I believe I was the senior listed leader for NSA and Cyber Command up at Fort Meade.
You were.
Right.
You were.
And I had some great assignments in my life, that being one of the best ever. But I don't know that I've ever been busier in my life. And so when you told me that story, I have racked my brain. I cannot remember that happening. I believe you. It happened, I'm sure. But there were so many times where I couldn't even get to some of the cybercom things because NSA was taken over or vice versa. It was a very challenging time. And, you know, but what I really appreciated is you came back to me later and told me about this story. I didn't hear about it, as we would say, from the third shitter on the left. It was a direct conversation between you and I. And I said, well, I got to do better because whether it's perception or reality, it's one and the same. And I should have treated you better. So my apologies again for that.
But you and that's water under the bridge. We're good.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah. But the purpose of bringing it up here is obviously we know about this story is not everyone gets it right the first time. And so you and I didn't get right the first time. You know, I needed remedial training, so to speak. But it's important. And so
the second person, Chris Gunn,
yeah,
he was the first SFAB sergeant major. And you know, something about timing too. You were talking about busy at cyber. It's about timing. So I went to see Chris Gunn at first SFAB. They were getting ready to deploy. And I go in his office and he was very cordial. Hey, he listened to me.
Still there, brother?
Yeah, I'm still here. I got you.
You still there?
Yep, still here.
Awesome. You still there?
Yep, still here. You got me?
Hello.
Hello, I'm still here.
Okay. Not sure if that hotel Wi-Fi dropped
or
what.
I went to Chris Gunn's office and I pitched the network. He was very cordial, but you know, I left and I just got, you know, he wanted nothing to do with it. Fast forward about 3 years, he's at the infantry school, and I go in his office and we're talking about the network. And he's like, yeah. And I said, hey, and he had first SFAB colors on his wall. I said, hey, I knew. I said, you were in the first SFAB. He goes, yeah. And I said, yeah, I was in your office once. He goes, oh my God, you were. And it hit him that I had come into his office talking about the same network that he now wanted to be part of, but he blew me off in his office.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, I will never push network on anybody. If you want to be part of something that I think is special, we're here for you. You don't want any part of it? It's okay. It's, you know, it's on you. But yes, you're a class act, my brother. You waved me off, and we came back together.
We came back. You know, again, I wasn't able to make it through training the first time. Remedial helps.
That's okay. You're a Marine.
There you go. Right. Hey, and on that part there, I think it's important for everyone to be who they are. And I say this because there's this idea or pressure or mentality, pick your adjective, descriptive term, if you will, that if you're on LinkedIn, you got to post X amount of times a week and this and that. And I understand why that's said and how it's what it's meant for. But I think what's most important is that you stay genuine to who you are, or else it comes across as, hey, I'm trying to be this person or that person. Networking is not to gain a follower count. Networking is not done, and it shouldn't be done in terms of what's in it for me. But when you do it genuinely and you have a genuine conversation with someone, you'll be amazed where these opportunities come from.
I think networks in that same venue, right? I mean, you got to be genuine. You can't network to get something, to gain something. You have to network for the for the sole fact you're trying to be a friend, you're trying to help.
Yeah.
That's a network to me.
Yeah.
And you told me at Peterson when I laid that on you, you told me that I was a truly genuine person, and I told my wife that, and that kind of touched me. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But brother, you get who you get. It's who I am. Like I said, Bobby says I'm too transparent at times, but I'm not in it to get anything out of it. I'm just there to help.
Yeah. It's again, I go back to one of the longest phone calls. Who talks on the phone very much, if all at all anymore? Not many people.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Right. It's all text nowadays. One of the longest phone calls I've had was today and about a year ago with the same colonel, same officer who is a dear friend of mine. And initially today we talked business opportunities. Hey, this is a thing and blah, blah, blah. I won't get into it too much. And we were getting ready to end the call. He said, "Hey, I know you're in a rush." And I said, "Well, how are you doing?" Right. And that might strike folks as odd, but and I get the rank structure in uniform. I got it. Right. There's a place for it, and I understand why. But transitioning, whether I'm having a conversation with former 4-stars that I've served with, or I just ran into 3 PFCs at the Wilmington, North Carolina airport a couple hours ago. And how are you guys doing? Or do you got what you need? Right. And they were make sure they're squared away. It just has to be genuine, right? The Dale Carnegie book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, is like the Bible, if you will, to use that term of how to do this as a master. But I wish people would really change their objective to searching for work, to looking for opportunities, and instead say, all of the time I'm putting into that, I'm going to take 90% of it and putting into building a network. And it's just like compound interest. I'm telling you, I promise you, I don't care if you are a 4-year corporal in the Marine Corps and you're getting out as an administrator. All of that time investing in a network, absolutely, go get your master's degree, get your certification, pursue your passion. But by building your network, you are going to 10x your opportunities, and it's just going to continue to grow. And that's, again, the whole theme of what we're talking about here today is what I love about this discussion.
Well, and I think you've said it before, your network is your net worth.
Well, I stole that.
And yeah, well, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's a good quote.
Yeah.
And it's true. I like to think the 2,000 people in our network are my friends.
Yeah.
And I will do anything for you that I can. And I would hope that goes for everybody, that anybody that's in our network, if somebody asks for help, and it's always been the case, they're there to help.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. When you retire, it's Scott, it's Dave. It's not Master Guns. It's not Sergeant Major. It's Scott. It's Dave.
Yeah.
It's just how it is.
Some folks call me the rank still, and I know it's out of respect, so I appreciate it. But Scott, is all good. You have a hard stop, and I know the folks you're going to have dinner with, and if I don't get you there, I'll get whacked. So I want to ask you one question, and I'm going to turn it over to you to see if you got anything to plug or to talk about. This is something I hear all the time, and I would like you to speak to the folks that have this idea. Hey, I'll get to that, but right now I'm too busy. What do you say to the folks that are too busy to network, that are too busy to invest in their transition? What do you say to them?
At the end of the day, when you walk across the stage, the only people that are going to be there is your family.
Yeah.
And you've got to lean forward in the foxhole to take care of them. And to do that, you have to network.
Yeah.
You cannot wait until you need a network to build a network. And you got to start early. I watched you do it. I remember, your LinkedIn presence just kind of exploded. And I remember calling you like, Scott, what's going on? And you'd gone to a LinkedIn webinar, and you said, hey, it opened my eyes to what I need to do. And you became a master at it. You've got to start early, and you got to start to build your network. And don't only look at your peers, but you talked about an E4 that gets out and now he's an HR at a company. You've got to You've
Oh
got
yeah.
to expand. You've got to expand your network beyond what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
And when I go out to the shows or venues, yeah, I'm talking to people that I don't know. Bobby says I've become a master at it. I used to be an introvert. Bad. But now they're like, yeah, that's not you. You're an extrovert. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
yeah. Mike Quinn says he's exhausted when he gets done talking because he's such an introvert.
Yeah.
You never know it. LinkedIn is a good. I hope I'm answering your question. You got to start early. You've got to put yourself out there, and you got to. You got to let yourself be vulnerable. You do.
I try to summarize it as I believe in myself enough that I can walk and chew gum at the same time. And I was privileged to work for General Jim Dickinson, United States Army 4-star, at my last command, Space Command. And now there were some things happening in Congress that delayed, the Senator Tuberville issue that delayed him from retiring because we were going to actually go out together. All good things happen, right? And so I saw him go through his medical process and everything. And he would often encourage me, hey, how was your thing? And we would have our evening meetings together and we would, hey, this is what happened for me, or hey, you need to go see this person, whatever. And so it always helps to have a battle buddy, a commander, pick your term, to help you that shows the way as well. And then I had great folks like you and Mike and others to help out as well. So we got to get you ready for your tuxedo dinner, which I imagine it's not going to be. Where can folks find Ozzy Osborn, and what do you have to share before we send you off, brother? And again, thank you for being on Beyond the Resume with me.
It is my pleasure, Scott. Thank you so much for having me. You can always find me on LinkedIn.
Yes.
So David Osborn, and I'm the good-looking one. Always on LinkedIn. There is an Oz Network, OZ Oz Network on LinkedIn. Anybody can join that. You don't get the information that we share within our network, but it is a subset to the bigger network that I use from time to time, or you can communicate with me directly via that one. So anybody can find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
If you're ever interested in being in our network, reach out to me. Let's chat. We can talk about it.
Yeah.
If you're in our network now and you're watching this, I would ask that you continue to spread the word about what we're doing and how we can help you in your transition, because we are a group of friends helping friends.
Yeah. Amen.
And beyond that, I work for Skydyne, and if you need a portable field desk with dual monitors, I've got your company.
Oh, absolutely. It's a great product. You shared it with me. I've seen.
I do. I think it's got some legs.
Hey, I'll just 10 seconds real quick on that. I mean, the fight of tomorrow is not going to be what we had in Al-Assad and these places where we have, green bean coffee and all that. We're going to be moving quickly. And so you're going to need things like your company, Skydyne's offering. So I appreciate them bringing you on board, and I appreciate what they're doing for the warfighter. So, hey, everyone, I got to get Ozzy out of here or I'm going to get whacked. He's got a meal. Ozzy, tell the folks you're having dinner with I said hello. Love them as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here on Beyond the Resume. Let's continue to look out for one another. And remember, as Robin Fortner, the great Sergeant Major, she told me, your network is your net worth. I fully believe it. Continue to network and continue to find opportunities for both yourself and others. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Scott.